wanted to just take a minute and show you the BBF, the association that I'm a member of. This is the Business Brokers of Florida Association. It's a bunch of licensed real estate agents that specialize in small to mid-sized businesses. And I wanted to just share with you, this is the sold database. If I go back, there's another database of active listings. I can show you anything by county. I could pull it up by category or subcategory. If I go to professional, I will show you other businesses that are for sale. I'm going to go into my selection, and I'm going to show you all Florida, all different prices, minimum prices, down payments, the seller's discretionary earnings, sales, how they prove their financials, with a comment, without a comment. For right now, let me just see if there's any actives. There's no active legal practices. So you'd be the only one, actually. As far as the solds, there were some that would show you what willing buyers and willing sellers were willing to transact at, what they considered fair market value. And it's based on a ratio of the SDE, the seller's discretionary earnings, or the adjusted net, which is the net with adjustments, add backs, EBITDA, earnings before interest, taxation, or amortization. I'm sure you understand all of that, but we're trying to figure out what the true horsepower of the business was. And, if it says 100 grand on the tax returns, but there was another X amount of dollars that maybe didn't make it to the tax return, we do all those add backs and try and come up with what the owner actually earned, because we want to give them the true value. But you can see we sell all different kinds of businesses. This is why I love this industry. It's so diverse. Every day it's totally different. I could search all Florida legal practices. I'm not going to do it by price or earnings or minimum or what type of financial situation they're proving the information with real estate, without real estate, visa. We're not getting into any of that. I just wanted to show you the solds. So over the last 21 years, about 900 to 1,000 teams, or agents with teams like I have, sold 12. Okay, so you're 100% correct. It's not a big part of our business. Restaurants, there's about 1,000 of the, I don't know, there's a third of what we've sold. If I was trying to figure out what the sold price to sales, which usually we don't go by sales, we go by discretionary earnings, which is here, sold price versus seller's discretionary earnings, on average, which I would not compare you to all of them because these are smaller. I would only compare you to the top 3 because the way you made it sound with the building and outgrew space and whatever, I'm going to say that you're amongst the large 3. I'll show you what that is in a moment. But here, 1.5, let's call it. Rent is about 9 or 10% of your gross. So you're doing $1 million in sales, it should be 10% of that. The average down payment was 70 cents on a dollar. Some of them cashed out 100%. 403 days on the market, making $500,000. It sold for $750, which is about 1.47 times earnings. He had sales of 2.5. So he was keeping 20%, rough numbers. But he may have started at $10 million. And then 9 million and 8 million. He might have been on the market for that long because he was overreaching. But ultimately, the market, the buyer and the seller both agreed it's only worth 1.5 years earnings. So if you're making 100 grand, it was worth 150. You're making $500,000, like this guy, it's worth 750. If you're making $1 million a year, it's worth $1.5 million. That's what this is kind of saying. When I get rid of these small discretionary earnings, watch this. I'll get rid of 1, and watch this number, 1.45. It changes. 1.42, because as you go up, it's going to change. 1.73, and see the days on market, this guy is still hanging in there because he's one of the big guys. But I have to get rid of the little guys in order to find business may or may not sell for. So here, you're about 1.4, right? 80% down payment, 5 or 6% rent. That's kind of how it goes. And if you wanted, I can show you the comments that went with this, so you can see the size and type of practice it was, perhaps. 1.47. Let's get rid of this guy. He's only making 100 grand a year. 1.4. We get rid of this guy. 1.25. 607 days on average. But you can see we're getting into 300. This is professional money now. So you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This guy made a huge amount of money. How do you keep 4.2 on 5 million? That's like 83%. That's dissimilar. Let's go to the bigger boy. 1.9, let's call it, on average. Let's get rid of this other guy. 1.3. So you can see it's 1.3, 1.5, in that range. Here, now we're going to go to the top 3. When you got rid of that guy, it came down to 80 cents on a dollar, maybe 1 year's earnings. This guy, and we don't have to go any further, but 85% of a year, 20% of a year, 67, 1.5. So here, I get rid of one more guy, let's say, call it a year's earnings. So if you make $1 million a year, your practice is worth about $1 million, 900, 950, right? If you're keeping $1 million, the seller's discretionary earnings. If I just do the biggest guy, it's going to throw off the numbers. So that's pretty much how it works. I'm going to show you with comments. Same group, but you can read a little bit if you want to, pause this or whatever. You could see what type of business they were doing. 20 hours a week, 25 years. You could read a little bit more about it. This is where he's only making 70. This guy was making $1.30 and so forth. This is the largest, earnings of 4.2. Extremely lucrative medical malpractice firm. That sounds familiar. Attorney is willing to stay on to try cases and negotiate employment contracts. 40 active cases with potential to earn millions. 1,000 former client files. 50,000 new computer systems. Great location. Recently won a $15 million case. He won a $15 million case. That explains the $5 million, I guess. He probably recently sold it, settled, and then decided to sell. I guess at a high. I guess that's a unique settlement for him. He was asking $2 million plus a percentage of the current case to be negotiated. It sold for 1.1. That's why it was on the market, probably the amount of time it was, because he started very high. But ultimately it sold for 1.1, and you could see it was less than a year, I guess, because one case was kind of an anomaly. Buyers were saying, but it might not repeat itself. If it doesn't repeat itself, I'm not going to give you the value of that case because it only happened one time in your career. That's all I got for you on this particular subject. And then I could do an average over here. To me, it's interesting stuff. Goodbye. Thank you. I'll talk to you soon.